Hey, I'm Fonzie, Chachi, and Joanie.
Sunday, Monday, happy days.
Thursday, Friday, happy days.
You forgot Tuesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days.
The weekend comes.
Have a safe Halloween.
Hey.
These days are all sharing the blues and happy days.
Hey.
I am Chachi Arcola, right out of Happy Days. Every year, I make my kids do a family Halloween costume. It is our tradition. We have done it for as long as I can remember. And this year is no different. I've got myself a Joanie, Chachi's girlfriend, as well as, of course, the Fonz, Sandler. So he's been practicing his Ayyyy. I made them watch a little trailer. Bootsy would have nothing to do with it. She just knows she's got to endure the family photo of dressing up as I have requested and then make the photo and get through that, and then she can have her Halloween the way she likes it, which is very traditional. She likes to pick a very conservative, usually sort of a princess or something Disney related type of a thing, but always conservative. Nothing sexy goes down in our house. Absolutely nothing sexy. Clearly nothing sexy, not on my end either. But then, and she wants to do something with her dog, Kevin. Last year, the family was Fantasy Island. Not the reboot. I didn't even know there was a reboot until I started Googling pictures last year. I thought, I didn't know there was a whole reboot of that show. But Sandler was Tattoo. I was Mr. Rourke. Bootsy was the stand-in Flamingo. And the dog was the plane. And just to give you an idea of how the family photos go, Bootsy has that look, kind of the Alaskan, we'll call it the Alaskan look, the same look she had the entire trip to Alaska. Just this, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I am mortified you're my family. Get out of my face. But okay, if it means I'm going to be rewarded with how I want to dress for Halloween, cool, but just get this over with. The dog, clearly he wants nothing to do with it, but he has to endure dressing up in whatever costume goes with the family costume. It's part of the family now. Sandler, he's kind of he'll do whatever. He takes minimal bribing when it comes to. He likes Halloween so much that he just gets excited to have a plethora of costumes, and I just have to make sure to honor his request for whatever he wants to trick or treat in. Yes, we still trick or treat at the ripe old ages of 19 and 15. That's what they look forward to. Sandler looks forward to Halloween the entire year, from the day it's over until the following year, and he contemplates what he's going to be for Halloween. But yeah, the Mr. Rourke Tattoo, the Flamingo, and the plane went pretty well. The plane was popped. I had to buy a inner tube. I couldn't find a dog plane costume, so I bought an inner tube, little infant inner tube that goes in the swimming pool, and it was popped and destroyed before we got to the family photo region. Bootsy ended up with some thorns in her flamingo costume because she was in the rose bush. But all in all, it was success. And then we continued to celebrate Halloween for another week with various costumes of their choice and a couple more maybe of mine. But this is a special Halloween episode, and though I am Chachi, I am wearing Nikki's glasses, and I'm Nikki Lynn Chase, and this is my podcast, Adult Chicken, about navigating life's unexpected. These are my stories. This is my journey as a mom to two special needs kids. I've always loved Halloween. I never liked a traditional costume. I remember one time, and it was funny, in Colorado, Halloween was a big deal simply because it seemed like every Halloween would be the first snow. Sometimes we get it earlier, but usually without fail, the first snow would happen on Halloween. And one Halloween I remember in particular because my mom was just trying to give me whatever costumes that she could find. And she found there was a witch costume. She used to sew, like when we were really little, she would sew all of our stuff. She was so cheap that she would sew things to look like name brand items. She would sew my dad rugby shirts. She had a bunch of the little squares, really colorful, bright fabrics, and she'd sew pretend or fake rip off Lily Pulitzer dresses. And at a time, she was very creative and she was crafty and she sewed like a machine. She sewed with a machine like a machine and made all kinds of things. There were a couple witches costumes I know we had, but I was really young and I didn't want to just be a witch. I'm like, well, that's boring. I want to be a spooky witch. So I wore one of those back in the day, right? We wore plastic masks. Your face would heat up to about 9,000 degrees. You could barely see. There'd be these holes and they'd be really sharp. This thing would like chop up your face. But I had a dopey mask with a witch costume. And I rocked that and thought it was amazing. I'll never forget that Halloween because it dumped snow. We were out trick-or-treating and it was this huge snowstorm. And then I think the following year, if not 2 years later, I was going to be Ronald McDonald. That one mortified me because I'll never forget. I walked in, my mom said, I bet you get free cheeseburgers. I'm going to take you to McDonald's and you're going to ask for free cheeseburgers. Again, she was a cheap woman. So man, if I had this Ronald McDonald costume, I was going to feed the family for free. She was sold. So I go to McDonald's. I don't even remember the people at McDonald's being impressed with my costume. I think it was a pretty impressive costume, to be quite honest with you. I sure as shit didn't get free cheeseburgers, and I was so embarrassed. I felt really embarrassed. I thought more or less they'd like roll out a red carpet for me, and that definitely didn't happen. But then came the time where she was over helping me with Halloween. So by this time, I'm in junior high school. And she takes me to the fabric store. And I say, I want this elaborate costume. I was under the impression she was going to make me whatever I wanted. She knew how to sew. She was good at sewing, actually. And I thought she was going to make me this awesome costume. And I don't know what I wanted. I'm sure it was probably very hard. I think we went over to where the patterns were and I found something, maybe a princess. Maybe I wanted to be Dorothy from Wizard of Oz or something. But she said, I'm not making it. You have to make it. Well, I, again, didn't know how to sew. And then she said, and you can pick from this fabric. And it was the sale fabric, of course. So I'm looking, and the one fabric that strikes me as something I'm interested in is this bright pink, furry, really, really furry material. And it's cheap. I mean, there's a reason it's on sale. It's like the ugliest material you've ever seen. And I said, I want that. So we got a couple yards of this material. And she said, what are you going to make with that? I had no idea. Again, I legitimately had no idea how to sew. I could hand sew. So I folded it in half. I sewed the top. I sewed the sides. I cut 2 holes out. I got a couple pieces of poster board and I made a cone and I put my legs through at the bottom of the cone, 2 holes for my legs. And I said, I'm cotton candy. And I went to school and boom, first prize. I won first prize. And after that, I'm like, I've got this. I've got Halloween. Year after that, we went to the fabric store. She took me to the sale section. You can buy something on this rack. I found some white fabric, really heavy duty white fabric. I said, I want this. I'm going to be the Pillsbury Doughboy. Boom! First prize again. So then I think I'm going to win every first prize. I'm going to win it. And I started getting second. I got a couple of thirds, back to first a few times there. In high school, I dressed as Slash, walked around bending my back with a guitar. I was in character the whole entire time. I loved it. I've always been fascinated with impersonation, character costumes, like Saturday Night Live. I love to see what they can pull off and put together. And of course, the acting is helpful too. But when these people look exactly like the people or the characters that they're supposed to be, it's amazing. I mean, there's a reason it's such a successful show, right? So then I get to college. And at this point, everybody, I think this is when the Robert Palmer, there was a music video with these sexy girls that were just playing the guitar, and it was nothing. It was like a black dress. And we knew I was in San Diego. It was my first year of college, and my friend had come out to celebrate Halloween, and there was a progressive party. Each house had a different alcohol. Jungle Juice was a real fancy thing. Some houses were beer, some were Jello shots. So we're getting ready. And I told her, this idea that we would be sexy too, because we knew everybody was going as the Rob. That was like the costume of the year. Okay, well, we're going to go as sexy girls too. So I bought us some, might have picked up on my mom's thing, go to the fabric store. And I said, let's be cave women. I got this furry orange material, some furry brown material. So I'm making spots. I'm hand sewing these outfits. We have like a few hours. I can't get them together. We looked like, I made like pillowcases with holes in them. They were as far from sexy as they could be. They're super itchy and they looked awful. So I thought, we got to think fast. What can we wear? We dressed like frat boys. We got so much shit because there weren't very many girls. And of course, the college boys wanted to see somebody sexy and cute. We wore ties, we wore ball caps, and we were frat boys. And it was absolutely hilarious. The boys didn't think we were as funny as we thought we were, but it was great. It's needless to say, once I had kids, then I was really one-upping myself. I was in like a competition with myself. I have been in a competition with myself since I had kids as far as Halloween costumes go. I remember there was a stuffed animal, Bootsy's very first Halloween. I had taken a picture of her with this extremely elaborate, awesome monster stuffed animal, and I thought that would make the cutest Halloween costume. Why not? I never did teach myself how to sew on a sewing machine, but I hollowed out that sucker and I hand sewed some ribbons on there, and then I took the head off and sewed on ties so she could wear it like a hat, and it was the greatest Halloween costume ever. And that started my mommy mission of making the best hand-sewn Halloween costumes ever. Following year, I made a Scuba Steve costume for her. It remained cold. It remained inevitable that every Halloween was going to be freezing cold. So I started getting onesies, like a fleece onesie, and then I'd add to it. So I bought her second Halloween costume was a red fleece that I sewed a yellow scuba tank I made out of felt and big yellow fins along with a scuba diving mask. And that was amazing. I have to admit, that one was cool. And then the following year was Ricky Bobby. Yes, might have a little reoccurring theme of movie characters, but the next one was Ricky Bobby, and that was a white fleece that I'd sewn all the Wonder Bread sponsorship stuff onto with fleece and an elaborate helmet. She had a little motocross helmet, so I took that and put a felt cover on it with also the Wonder Bread Ricky Bobby themed sponsorship. And she was so darn cute, a curly hair underneath the helmet. And she was very content and just good. She was a very good sport about doing all of these things. And then after Ricky Bobby, she was the man with the yellow hat. I made her a yellow fleece costume, sewed a Curious George onto the shoulder, and made a big felt yellow hat. It was amazing. They were all functional. They were all fashionable. And at this point, the town, so we're back up in Vail at this point, and the town is kind of anxiously anticipating the Chase family Halloween costume. And Bootsy's costumes start winning costume contest. Like there was a town costume contest and she started to win. So then like the competitive side of me and my Halloween masterpieces starts coming out, and each year I start getting kind of stressed. And the year I remember we had gotten the swine flu, myself and the two kids ended up with H1N1, if I'm not mistaken, was the code for that particular year's flu, and it was known as the swine flu. And I remember I'd never been so sick in my whole entire life, but Halloween was coming up, and I didn't know what to do. I wanted to, make us elaborate costumes, but I was so sick. And I thought, you know what, family costume. Boom, we're going to be the girls next door. That'll be an easy one. Sandler couldn't walk at the time. And he also was kind of recovering, getting out of being sick. He was so weak at the time. And I thought, well, I'll just dress up the wagon. I'll make it all satin and silk, and I'll just sew some silk onto a robe, and he'll be Hugh Hefner. So I made his hair gray. And then Bootsy and I were the girls next door in a very non-sexy way, just hilarious. And then our dog at the time was this Buddy the bulldog. And I was totally inspired by the swine flu. And I thought he's going to be the swine flu. So I made him a felt nose for a pig. And then I made him wings out of hand sewed some pink wings to match the pink snout of a pig. And then he had H1N1 on his backside. And so he was the swine flu and we were the girls next door. And I remember that had made the papers. And then I think the following year, it might have been the year before, but Bootsy was the whole entire Sesame Street. She wanted to be, at this point, she's starting to have a little bit of an opinion, not much of one, about what she wants to be, but she wanted to do something Sesame Street related. And I said, no problem. And I made her the whole entire Sesame Street. So she had each and every character from Sesame Street sewn on, hand sewn onto her. At this point, I think it was a black onesie or black fleece outfit, and then a headpiece, which was the street sign for Sesame Street. And that year, Sandler was Chicken Little, and they were just always warm and always in the best costumes. Once we relocated to Tacoma, though, our resources, our Halloween resources were very limited. I couldn't just get to fabric stores. So we did a family costume of the Dukes of Hazzard. And enter in, this is when I discovered how funny it was to see Sandler with chest hair. And that kind of became a thing we incorporated into a few of our future Halloween costumes. Once we moved from Tacoma to California, the kids start having a little bit of an opinion. I knew it would probably get there, but I didn't want it to happen. But they wanted store-bought costumes. And I remember that first Halloween that they wanted that. I was like, well, I guess it's done now. I'll just go full throttle with my own. You guys are on your own. Store-bought Halloween costumes. It's tacky. But we took a couple years off where I just kind of let it go. They got stupid Halloween costumes, like just a generic Spider-Man here and there. Bootsy was a generic princess here and there, or whatever costume they decided to pick, and I kind of let it go, but I did my own thing. I was master of my own Halloween costumes. I did Naked Cowboy one year. I did Sherman Merman. I love picking costumes from actual character actors or something like that. But then family costumes made a return because I wasn't going to have it anymore. You can have store-bought costumes if you do the family costume. So I always say I'm not a competitive person, but when it comes to Halloween costumes, and I get really competitive with myself, and I know we're going to inevitably probably end up somewhere where there's a contest, and if we don't, it doesn't matter. If I have succeeded in making our costume look like I wanted it to, or people know who we are, then I've won my own Halloween costume contest, and that's all that matters to me. I made the kids dress up as 51st Dates. Sandler was the person with the braids and the blue hair. I was Adam Sandler, Bootsy was Drew Barrymore, and that was hilarious. And then Bootsy started not wanting to have anything to do with the family costume. And I understood that. She was kind of hitting the teenage years. She's over it. She's embarrassed. She was mortified. But Sandler didn't care, so he'd continue to accept my bribes of, you can be whatever you want, but you have to do the family Halloween costume. And he had started skateboarding too, so we originally, at the beginning of his passion for skateboarding, started doing our favorite skaters. And then that sort of evolved into the legendary skateboarders that we knew. And a lot of them we've grown to know very well. We would do the then and now. And so there will be a big reveal of the then and now of this year's pro skater. And it's funny because we just went over this last night. Sandler says his favorite holiday is Halloween. And then, of course, when Halloween ends, his favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. Then when Thanksgiving ends, his favorite holiday is, of course, Christmas. And he'll ask me all year long what my favorite holiday is. And then it's looking forward to his birthday. So those are the top four, kind of depending on what we're closest to. But he's funny because he'll dress up. He's obsessed with Chucky. But that's throughout the year. When it comes time for Halloween, Chucky's not a thing because that's an all year, every day thing. And I don't know how that even stuck. I did that whole episode on Chucky. I don't know where that came from. It came out of the blue 5 or 6 years ago, and it's stuck. So Chucky's just an everyday thing in our household. But he gets really worked up. And so as soon as I knew different Halloween stores were opening up, I surprised him. We were having kind of a wonky, bad day. So when we finally get to about our 4th Halloween store, might have been the 3rd. I know we've been to about 4 or 5 at this point. Damage Control is always the Halloween store. We tend to have all these appointments in the fall months. And so as a way to keep things positive, I'm like, Halloween store after this appointment. So go to the doctor, have XYZ done, and then we'll hit up the Halloween shop. So I think this was after he was cleared for his knee, or we went to some doctor appointment. And he gets there. Once again, he's completely overwhelmed. He's overstimulated. Bootsy's walking around, not finding anything she wants. She's at this point decided to be Belle, but she wants to be before Belle turned into a princess. She is over the top conservative, which I'm all for. She did not. She thought all of the princess costumes were inappropriate because they were kind of going for, all the adult costumes are going for this sexy look, and she's not about that. So she asked that I order her one that she had a say in, and it is uberly conservative, and I think that's awesome. I love, no pressure here. Yeah, you don't want to dress like a skanky Belle? Perfect. You can be the one with a, calf length dress on and everything's covered up. In fact, it had a little V-neck, and she's like, I'm going to have to put something underneath this. I said, absolutely. Don't want you looking too sexy in a V-neck. But Sandler could not choose. He was getting so frustrated and he was getting so mad. And then I explained to him we still have a little more time, as I'm collecting things and purchasing a few things to go with our Happy Days costume. And also the annual legendary Then and Now pro skateboard costume. And we get in the car, and I'm having to counsel him because he is just livid that he couldn't find anything. He's all stressed out. He's pissed off. And so I said, look, watch a little Happy Days. Let me put you in the mood. These are like the happiest, nicest, most positive, family-oriented people you have ever seen. And you're going to love being Fonzie. He was a great, total rebel. A total rebel. And so he watches it, and he's not impressed at first. He's upset that I'm both of them are upset that I'm making them be what I'm making them be. But he kind of gets into it, and he starts realizing the wholesomeness, I think, of it, and just appreciating what it is. He's like, Mommy, I'm okay with being Fonzie. I like him. He seems like a cool guy. And he said, can I see the wig? So I give him the wig, and he puts it on. And then he forgets he's got it on, just as I have completely forgotten I've been dressed like Chachi Joanie throughout this whole entire episode. And we started to upset Bootsy because we're both in our wigs and we're both wearing what we've got on and just kind of forgetting it. And then we were kind of enjoying how upset she was getting. But everybody agreed that they would do this family costume with me, and everybody is okay with it, I think, because they have been rewarded their store-bought costumes. The tradition continues. And the funny thing is, Sandler didn't realize I was going to do this whole entire podcast with my Chachi Joanie costume on. And he's got a real thing. He loves Halloween. He loves dressing up. He loves Chucky. He loves wearing a Chucky mask literally year round. I mean, he'll put that on. Again, Chucky has no place on Halloween because that would be far too normal for our household. But he'll wear a Chucky mask just on some random summer day just to wear it. And I showed him the video. I showed him a little snippet of the video where I'm obviously dressed like this. And he goes, you need to take that off. Don't do that. You're not putting that out there, right? You're going to not wear that. And he got so upset. And I realized, and I reflected on another time, he can't stand to see me. He doesn't like to see me without a hat and my glasses. He doesn't like to see me with my hair down. It makes him very uncomfortable. Any sort of change makes Sandler very uncomfortable, which is funny that he's so intrigued and interested in Halloween, where you put a costume on and you change your whole entire appearance, and that's the fun of it. And he's interested in it literally year round. But the second I do it, it makes him uncomfortable. And it made me think of a time where he was being awful. You know, they take turns as far as behavior goes. One can't behave at the same time as the other one. They've got to take turns. And he was just being awful. We were in a fight literally for the entire day. Things were not going well. And I put this app on my phone that allows you to put various hairstyles on your face. And I just kept taking different screenshots of me with different hairdos. And I kept sending them. He was just in the other room. He was in the living room. I was in my room. And I just kept sending them to him. And it just about put him right over the edge. Talk about the most innocent torture. And I was being mean. Purposely, I was being very, very mean. And I realize now that he's seen me dressed as Chachi Joanie, that if and when he misbehaves, which I'm assuming with all of this, all these testosterone injections and all of these hormonal changes, we're just at the beginning stages of what's to come. I think this is an outfit I'm just going to take out, put on, walk around the house. I might even walk around town. I might even go skateboarding at his skate parks with this outfit on, because man, if anything's effective as far as behavior and just getting my kids go, it is. So today's special edition is going to be a montage of our past Halloween costumes. And hopefully we'll get in a few of our future, this year's Halloween costumes to boot. Knock on my door. Please tune in next week as we enter the month of November. It will be the official kickoff to the holiday season, where I will share some very exciting gift giving ideas. One in particular is my favorite gift I've ever given. I'm sure you can only imagine what that might have been. Some awesome decorating ideas, and we'll just get festive. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share. You can find me on my new website at adultchicken.com, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcast, Adult Chicken, also YouTube, Adult Chicken, and Instagram, adult_chicken.